Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
To some, we could be called career wizards.
And to others, sometimes we seem like therapists. However, we definitely are not.
But for you, we are the co-hosts of the Career Boosters podcast.
It was in the connectedness
Yep.
talent, and it said that you value relationships and are interested in getting to know people, not just for relationship building, but it's a natural reaction in your belief that each person comes into your life for a reason.
Wow, that's... Hello and welcome to the Career Boosters podcast, Season 3, Episode 8. You might notice something a little different today about today's episode. One of our co-hosts is missing. Tiffany. She's not missing like in the physical sense, but she is out doing some facilitation for group leaders here at the University of Alberta. So it's a solo host show for Paul today. We don't know what's going to happen, but here we go. Luckily, I have a great MBA student here to join me, Hajira Malik, and I can't wait to talk to her a little bit more about strengths, about the first year of her MBA program, and lots of different things. So my favorite piece of information that I have seen on strengths comes from a comedian of all people, Jimmy Carr. It's not somebody you would expect to talk about strengths, but the main takeaway from this video, this very short video that we actually showed in class, is the world doesn't necessarily need people that are all-rounders. The world needs people who are just really great at certain things. And I cannot tell you how much I really buy in to this. We need to look at the things that we're good at. We need to, once we find the things that we're good at, we probably will enjoy them more. And once we enjoy things more, the more impact that I think that we're going to have. And I just truly believe leaning into our strengths is really important. In our class this week, we had students do what's called the Gallup CliftonStrengths assessment that highlights for each student what their top 5 talents are. And maybe or maybe not, you have noticed that I didn't say strengths. But talents are natural ways of being. We have natural things that we're good at, and once we identify those, we can turn those into strengths with an allocation of investment of time. And for context, as we go through our podcast today, my top 5 Gallup CliftonStrengths are individualization, belief, responsibility, empathy, and maximizer. And I can't wait to hear about Hajira's top 5 talents and what they mean to her. So Hajira, thank you so much. Welcome to the show. And the first question that we start with everybody is, what is the story behind your decision to embark on an MBA journey right now?
So the decision came from I already have 2 career changes, I would say, because I have an undergrad degree in arts, and then I worked in government, and then I went back to school to do nursing, and I was working in that field, but I was feeling a little bit like I wasn't being challenged in my employment, and so I was thinking, what should I do, like where can I pivot to? And the MBA seemed like a really great place to start, to get foundational knowledge in a lot of different things to hopefully get me to where I want to be, which is unknown for right now.
Yeah, that's okay. And I think that's what's so cool about the MBA experience is you work with, people like me around career coaching, and we can have some great conversations to help you kind of uncover and look at what that looks like. So just quickly, like, what did you do for the government? And then what was it about nursing that you really enjoyed?
So my job that I did before I started my MBA was a medical adjudicator for the federal government. So you do CPP disability assessments. They hire registered nurses to make those decisions. And something I really like about nursing is the people side of it. I really like working with people. I really like interacting with people in my day. So that's something that I really enjoyed.
Nice. That's awesome. What's been the favorite experience of the MBA so far? So you've been here for, oh my gosh, like almost 4 months, three months now. What has this been like?
I think that the best part so far for me is seeing all the cool things that people are doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in work, like you're in an organization or a field, you get kind of siloed into your kind of corner of the world, and you forget that there's a whole world out there, and there's so many cool things. So I've loved hearing about my classmates' backgrounds and their goals.
Yeah, it's the unique experience that an MBA brings. It brings scientists, engineers, doctors. It brings people in the arts. It brings so many people together, which is just so cool, and it's so interesting. And especially as a people person, I could see how you'd just be like soaking all of those things up, right? That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we just had on Monday a class on strengths. But we started our class with an activity, pretending that you were stuck on a mountain with three other people, and you have just a few supplies left after, or in this kind of situation that you're in. What was the activity like for you? What was it like going through this? Oh my gosh! Well, we're only left with these few things. What do we do now? And so I asked you to prioritize all of these things. What was that like for you?
It was actually pretty fun.
Yeah,
I did not grow up sort of outdoorsy or like camping, so
yeah, yeah,
what I thought I would take was very different than what my table mates wanted to take,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
had way better reasons, like backed up by like sort of their experiences or their, I don't know, their knowledge on the topic. So
yeah, yeah,
I really enjoyed it because then
yeah.
I left being like, well, if this ever happened to me, I feel like I am better equipped to survive.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. My goal with that activity is just one, to have a little fun at the start of class and like get you guys to chat and talk a little bit about who you are, like what your own experience brings. And I don't think I've ever seen the same top four answers from people, and you have 12 little pieces of supply that you have left, and you have to kind of rank them from most important to least important. And it is kind of fun to listen to what people deem as important. If you're stuck on a mountain, some people are running, they're trying to get off the mountain. Then you have other people that are hanging out and just saying we need to like stay here, the rescue party will be sent. And so it is a lot of fun to see. And there's actually a strengths component to it that we kind of relate to at the end of the class. That's why we kind of start with it. So we then went into kind of natural ways of being, asking students to stand up if it sounded like them. So we had things like you always talk to people, you color code and organize your closets, you have to-do lists, you race people while you're driving, or even race Google Maps when you're driving, and that's me, that one for sure. You ask lots of questions, or you push kind of an elevator button 100 times to make it show up faster. That's also me. How many did you stand up for when we are asking you guys these questions? How many natural ways of being were you selecting from this group?
I only stood up for one, and that was
Really?
making lists, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that's changed because I
Okay.
have a toddler.
Yes. Okay.
So, I mean, I think probably if you asked me this question like 5 years from now or 5 years in the past, like
Yeah.
it would have been different.
Yeah.
I don't have time to color code, even though I would love to.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the color coding was the one that you would have stood up for maybe 5 years ago, before the
For
toddler was
sure, even
around.
like 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah, yeah. And when we start a class like this, what are kind of some of your thoughts when we first start like this? It's like, are you someone that just leans into the process, or are you thinking like, where is this going?
I don't often think, where is this going?
Yeah,
I am
nice.
usually just like, this is great.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, very cool. So when we think about Gallup Clifton Strengths, just a little bit of like information for the people. We were joking, the tens of people that are going to listen to this. But when we think about Gallup Clifton Strengths, it started in the 1990s, and I think it's 31 million have done the assessment already, which is really cool. There are 34 unique talents, and that creates 33. I think it's 33.4 million combinations of your top five, which is so cool. Um, and the one kind of fact that I really like is 90% of Fortune 500 companies are using Gallup Clifton Strengths to support their workplace culture. And I think when I think of that is a real key indicator of how prevalent and how prominent it is in the world of business. So my first question: had you ever heard of Gallup Clifton Strengths before?
I had not heard of it before.
No. And so when we give you some information on what they are, and you get this top five, what were your top five? And let's just start there. What were your top five strengths? Or top five talents, sorry.
Okay, so my top five talents were empathy,
Hmm.
positivity, connectedness, futuristic, and harmony.
Awesome. What did you think about when you saw these things for the first time? So they when they give you the report, it's like this big, like, you have these big huge words, and it's the 5 things. What did you think about when you first saw those?
I felt validated, I think.
Cool.
I suppose, like, I think maybe I know that I'm a positive person,
Yeah.
but you don't really articulate that often, or like
Yeah.
it's not really something that comes up,
Yeah.
hey, hello,
Yeah.
I'm Hajra and I'm positive.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't really come up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I did feel validated,
Cool.
and yeah, it felt good, I think.
Yeah. It's more of like a feeling you give people, right? When they interact and talk with you, that positivity. It allows you to demonstrate it without having to say anything about it, right? Which I think is super cool. And when we think about even empathy, right? You can talk about being empathetic, but it's the demonstration of those things. That how you define empathy, and two, how you kind of show it to other people. I think that's what's so cool. When you first read, so you get a report, you get your top 5, you get these highlighted sections that kind of are really highlighted to who you are, and the way that you answered a few questions, it tailors this report to you. Uh, what was your reaction to us asking you to go through and pick out kind of those things?
It was very accurate. It
Was
was
it? Yeah.
accurate, yeah, and um, even like what it might look like when it's like a favorable characteristic
Oh, cool.
versus
Yeah.
also like when it's like what we call the groan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like it was pretty accurate on
Yeah.
both.
Awesome. That's so cool. Was there like a sentence or two that you're willing to share about one thing that really stood out to you that was really accurate?
Yeah, okay, so it was in the connectedness
Yep.
talent, and
Mm-hmm.
it said that you value relationships and are interested in getting to know people,
Mm-hmm.
not just for relationship building, but it's a natural reaction in your belief that each person comes into your life for a reason.
Wow, that's beautiful, isn't it? How have you demonstrated that, or why did it have so much meaning to you?
Well, I think this one was so interesting because sometimes I have interactions where I sort of assume other people are also like on the connectedness spectrum.
Yeah.
So I think they also want to connect and not necessarily like build contacts or have like a utilitarian relationship.
Yeah.
So I felt like this little blurb
Mm-hmm.
articulated how I feel, which is like sometimes I have interactions which are so great where I get to know people and it's
Yeah.
lovely, but then other times in the MBA, I'm in a group project or something and it really is just very utilitarian.
Yeah.
And I forget that not everyone is like that, like not
Yeah.
everyone is the same.
Yeah, for sure. It's, you and I will talk about this as we maneuver through our coaching meetings, but there is this theory of happenstance, which is essentially like things happen by chance, right? And I think the unique part that I heard from that statement was it's all kind of everything's kind of connected, right? Like at the end of the statement, it said something along the lines of like everybody shows up for a reason at the time they show up for, right? And I look at, you are in an MBA program, you decided in 2025 to do it, you are now in a cohort with a whole bunch of people that are in your class. You're probably really enjoying getting to know them. When I think about we're like almost 80 episodes into this podcast, and when we ask about the favorite part of the MBA program, it's the people, right? And it's all of the unique individuals that you get to meet, and you guys are all going to be connected. You guys are all going to be a part of the brand that you're building for yourself. Everybody's connected to me, and vice versa, right? Which I think is so cool. Knowing more about these talents or these strengths that you have, where are you seeing them show up for you in your MBA journey so far?
I think positivity has
Yeah.
been a very great one.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get caught up in kind of like the grades that you get because
Yeah.
that is sort of like the only objective kind of rubric that
Yeah.
you're kind of feedback that you get. But
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that it's maybe not my number one sort of priority because it
Nice.
helps me like kind of move through because we have so
Yeah.
many deadlines, so many things
Yeah.
kind of constantly coming up. So
Yeah.
I am glad that it's maybe not my main focus and this
Yeah.
talent, I guess,
Yeah.
of positivity just
Yeah.
enables me to just keep moving.
That's so cool, and it's the ability to take like whatever happens just in stride, right? Like you, we were talking just right before we hit record about some really difficult midterms, and we talked about the world of stats, and Tiffany and I always joke like we say that word, and students' minds and bodies start to be like, oh my gosh, don't talk about that anymore, and you're like, guys, it was good. It was good. It was what it
Yep.
was, and I think that's what a beautiful way to experience life is, to not put so much pressure and validation around like just these grades that we get. Because I think at the end of the day, you're most likely not going to be a statistician or anything like that. So that's okay. Learn
Yeah.
the topic and move on, right? Which I think is really cool. So you talked a little bit about the grown piece. So every talent, every strength has a light side and a dark side. What we like to talk about. There's beautiful places of, you just talked about positivity and how really great that is. But sometimes we have areas where it could make others groan a little when we are utilizing our talents. And I always love to start with an example of mine, because I think some people think, well, we have strengths, they're all positive. Well, guess what? I have this thing called maximizer, but I also have this combination of maximizer and competition, and I need to beat everybody at everything, and I can't help it. I have trained this for my entire life, playing sports, and my poor kids reap the not so much benefits of this. I beat them or I try to beat them in games. Now they're at the point where they're starting to beat me at things, and now I need to improve. But for you, what did you pick for your grin and groan moments? So the things that you really loved, and then the thing that maybe kind of holds you back a little bit that you got to share with some people.
I really like empathy and positivity, because I think we are all connected, and what's the point of life if you can't empathize with other people or care about other people's well-being? But the grown actually is related to positivity, and sometimes I have a tendency to minimize if other people are, upset about their grade, or really stressing out about an assignment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can come off as like, well, it's not a big deal, like life goes on, and that can be unpleasant for the person experiencing it, because to them it is a big deal. So that can sometimes be a groan.
It's interesting that you say that. I myself don't have positivity in my top 10. I work with Tiffany, who has positivity in her top 5, and we talk about this a lot. And I think what's cool about the training that we get as coaches is we get to ask about what's important to other people. And I think you talk about the word aloof kind of came up. If you're like, oh, somebody's really upset about something, you can be like, oh, it'll be okay, right? But for them, it could be the end of the world. And I think that's where your empathy really ties in there, that you can kind of really try to understand where they're coming from, and understand, yeah, I can see how impactful this would be for you, right? So that's pretty interesting. When we think about, we now have this information on our top 5 talents, how are you going to focus on these things through the rest of your MBA journey?
Well, in class, you guys mentioned how once you know your strengths, it's actually better to kind of like double down on them and like
Mm,
really lean into them, and partner with people, or like find ways to address your weaknesses without trying to like get rid of them, if that
yes.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So now that I know my top 5 talents,
Hmm.
going forward, I want to use like harmony
Yeah.
and connectedness
Yeah.
to have better like group projects,
Wonderful.
or
Yeah.
kind of like, longer relationships that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily like, oh, I want to add you on LinkedIn because maybe you'll
Yeah.
be useful in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to kind of use that more like going
Yeah.
forward in the MBA.
That's awesome. And when I think about this podcast was really meant to be for the other students that are in our program, and for them to learn through other students' experiences. I hope that many people think, I need to work with Hajira in groups, because she is going to blend such a unique blend of. She's going to see where I'm coming from. She's going to be very positive through the experience, and you're going to just offer so much value from a teammate perspective, to
I
always
hope
be
so.
seen and heard. Yeah, I think so, for sure, for sure. Is there anything, last question before we go to the lightning round? Is there anything about this topic that you'd like to learn a little bit more about?
Yeah, I would like if the people who I'm closest to in my life
Hmm.
all did this, so that I could communicate better with them. I think the more you know about people, so in terms of their strengths,
Yeah.
their talents, like the better relations you can have. And so I'm not surprised that like many big successful companies use this in their workforce because it's probably so beneficial to know the people you're working with and spending time with.
Yeah. And understanding what other people's talents are. I think sometimes we just go through, let's say a group project and we say, okay, I'm going to take this part, you're going to take this part, you're going to take this part. Have we thought about the why behind that? Have we thought about,
Yeah.
are people like maximizing the things that they're really great at in these areas? Or do they want to work on something, right? Do they want to like skill up in something? Or
Yeah.
like, the way I look at it, and Tiffany and I feel very lucky that we've been asked across almost the whole School of Business to be asked to come in and facilitate sessions on strengths because of how important it is to understand what we're good at and how we can just really seek efficiency and effectiveness within the work that we're doing. Because I can tell you, the more you're using strengths every day, the more life is very joyful. It's really great when you're working in the areas of your strength, which is so cool. All right, I feel like we could sit and talk about this for a long time, but we are going to move into a lightning round. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready.
Tiffany always does this, and she does always such a great job, so I'm going to try and do 50% as good as Tiffany does in the lightning round. So, what part of your career story has given you the biggest boost so far?
I had a manager who really empowered me and gassed me up when I worked
Nice.
at IRCC, and
Yeah.
that was like a person who really motivated me to go into nursing. She was
Yeah.
like, "You can do it."
Yeah, that's amazing. Very cool. What is one thing that you wished you had learned sooner?
I I need to work on being a better listener, and
Mm,
I wish I knew that 10 years ago,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I need to keep doing it.
Keep working on it. Yeah, perfect. Service is very important to myself and to our missing co-host today, Tiffany. So we want to know, how is serving others going to look like for you in the next week?
Well, I recently joined Net Impact, and
Nice.
so
Beautiful.
uh, I'm looking forward to building relations
Yeah.
with the CEO or the
Yeah.
the founder of the charity that
Yeah.
I'm paired up with, and
Nice.
I think that's how my service is going to look this week, is to put in the time and the effort
Yeah.
to kind of get that started on a good foot.
That's awesome. And for our listeners who aren't maybe as aware of Net Impact is pro bono consulting work that MBA students do for external organizations, which in my 13 years here, or 12 and a half years here, it is one of the most beautiful experiences that you can do as a student, is really give back to these organizations that need help. So, which is so cool. Hajira, this is the moment I get to ask you a random question. So we talked about you being a mom to a little toddler. I would love to know how that has allowed perspective to move into your life.
What a great question. I don't even know where to begin. I think kids are so amazing
Yeah,
because, especially at a young age when they don't have understanding like the way that we do and they don't have the emotional
yeah,
regulation,
yeah,
every minute of every day that I'm with him is
yeah,
like a reset,
yeah.
right? Like
That's awesome.
he's not rational, he's not
Yeah,
logical.
yeah,
So my perspective is constantly shifting.
yeah,
And just kind of having a baby, I think, really um, allows me to see the big picture,
yeah, yeah.
right? So like little things, I don't want to get hung up on them because like I have this
Mm-hmm,
cute, fun little toddler and
mm-hmm.
everything's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great perspective shift it is, right? And having two kids of my own, we're not perfect. We do the best that we can as parents and as workers and as people, but it does allow a little bit of perspective giving, that's for sure, which is awesome. Hajira, I can't thank you enough for joining us. When I think about empathy, positivity, connectedness, futuristic, and harmony, when you told me those just before we started, I was like, we've only had 2 meetings, the two of us, and it just sounds so accurate, which is really, really incredible to me. I think the ability to sit in a class with scientists, engineers, doctors, lawyers, and really bring a sense of connectedness, positivity, empathy, the ability to just seek harmony with the people that you work with. It is a blessing to not only me as your coach, but to our class as well. And I hope that your class really can listen to this and get you in on all of the group projects. Hopefully you're the most sought after person in group projects because just the tremendous amount of value that you add to the groups and to the projects. So thank you so much for saying yes today to my crazy idea of asking you on the podcast. You are the first person ever to have to just talk with me. So I appreciate that. And you just offered such great insight. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks. All right, key takeaway time. I am the only one that gets key takeaways. So I'm going to do 2 key takeaways. The first one, which is really interesting, Hajira. It is not Hajira, it's Hajira. My key takeaway number 1 is don't assume you know how to pronounce people's names. You know, she had after we had done our recording, she just said, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you something," and I was like, "Oh, beautiful, thank you so much." And I love that she has the confidence and the willingness to say, "Hey, this is how you pronounce my name." So Hajira, that's learning experience. Key takeaway number 1. Key takeaway number 2. I love the fact that Hajira's top 5 themes really align with what I know about her. There's one in there, futuristic, that you know, I'd love to ask some more questions about and see, what is this visioning for future look like for her and things like that. But, when I think about a key takeaway and our being our authentic self, but I'm going to change authentic self to our best self for the moment. Connectedness, empathy, positivity, harmony. We have these things that just really relate to who people are, and you really get to know who Hajira really is, which is so cool. Thanks for joining us. We are going to have a second episode on strengths because we do 2 weeks of strengths with our students. Appreciate you listening and joining. There's only one host voice this week. Hopefully it wasn't too boring, and we can't wait for Tiffany to join us back on the podcast next week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Career Boosters podcast. We hope you had a blast. Yeah, we know that's corny. Catch you next time, and remember to subscribe wherever you enjoy podcasts.